Then on Sports Central, we go over an NFL game preview and prediction on the 2022 wildcard round matchup between the Dallas Cowboys and the San Francisco 49ers. Both teams have had good seasons to this point. Should make for a good matchup in the wildcard round. You got Dallas on one side. Many people are saying this team is a dark horse to potentially win the NFC, which is totally believable considering this team and how they've played over the course of the season. And of course, this is a team who just won the NFC East as well, and they're 12-5 heading into this matchup. They're facing up against San Francisco. 49ers just got into a playoff spot with their win over the Rams in Week 18. So 49ers playing very well coming into this matchup, and they've improved quite a bit over the course of the season, and some are saying they could potentially be a dark horse as well. So should make for a good one coming up here in the wild card. We'll be going for a full game preview and prediction on this matchup here today, starting out with your team trends. Cowboys beat Philadelphia 51-26 in Week 18. So good win to finish out the season there for Dallas. And I do understand Philly did have most of their starters out considering they already clinched a playoff spot. But nonetheless, still a good win, putting up 50 points in that matchup. 12-5 heading into this matchup. And certainly, Dallas is a football team that we've seen the potential that they have. They've played some excellent games, but at the same time, there are some losses that are extremely confusing by the Cowboys over the course of this season. So we have seen a few inconsistencies here for Dallas, and that's why this is such a tough team to predict on, is because, 1 week they can, for example, blow out Washington, but the next week they lose to Arizona, as they just did a couple of weeks ago. So, yeah, Dallas, good football team, but they have been a bit inconsistent. As for the 49ers, beat the Rams 27-24 back in Week 18. Good win for them to finish out the regular season. They're 10-7 heading into this game, and as I said before, this team has improved a lot over the course of the season. They started the season 2-4 through their first 6 games. So this team has improved quite a bit over the course of the season, finishing out at 10-7, which 10-7 is not a bad record at all. They got a 2-game winning streak heading into this matchup as well, and they've got a couple of quality wins down the stretch as well. They beat the Rams twice, swept them, and the first matchup back in Week 10 was a 31-10 win. Of course, they also beat Cincinnati back in Week 14 as well. So, this team has shown potential over the course of the season. And, this team has got a high ceiling, especially considering all the talent that they've got offensively. It'll be on Sunday, January 16th in Arlington, Texas. So, Dallas is the home team for this matchup, 3:30 p.m. Central Time. And the Cowboys at home this season have been an interesting football team. And they've had some outstanding performances, such as their 56-14 win over Washington. But if you look at some of the other games on this schedule, this team, of course, lost to Denver 30-16. They also lost in overtime to the Raiders, and they've lost 3 games at home, which isn't a terrible. They're 5-3 at home. So, I wouldn't say this team is bad at home, but certainly they've had some questionable performances on their home field this season. But yeah, spread's going Cowboys here by 3, over under 51. FPI is going Dallas 64% as well. So Dallas is favored by a decent margin for this matchup. Series history: Dallas leads at 19-17-1. Last game was a while ago, but of course, if you look at this football team, Dallas has won 3 in a row, and in the last 5, Dallas leads at 4-1. Here's our recent matchups as well. Dallas, of course, beat Philly 51-26. Lost to Arizona back in Week 17. That was a tough loss. Lost it by 3, 22-25, and that was kind of a surprising loss, especially considering how they played against Washington. Beat them 56-14, and it looked like potentially that was the start of their hot streak going into the playoffs. They had won 4 straight after that Washington game that they won 56-14. So that Arizona loss was obviously tough on this team, but otherwise they played pretty well. Beat the Giants as well, 21-6. Beat Washington 27-20 back on December 12th as well. But as for the Niners, they beat the Rams 27-24 in overtime. They also beat the Texans 23-7. They did lose to Tennessee on the road 17-20, beat the Falcons 31-13, and beat Cincinnati on the road, which was a gutsy win 26-23. That game was also in overtime. Some key points: Dallas 12-5. Dak Prescott, he has played excellent this season, and of course I'd be considering, he's definitely in consideration for the comeback player of the year. This is a player that just was out the majority of last season with a pretty severe injury, and he comes back this season, and he's had a great year for the Cowboys and put up 4,400 yards on the season, 37 touchdowns, 10 picks. Has not been a bad season at all for Dak Prescott. Definitely a player to watch out for moving into the future. Offense has scored over 50 in 2 of the last 3, so that's definitely a stat to watch out for as well. This offense has played very well in their divisional games down the stretch. And defense, they have shown promise at times as well. This defense has had a few bad performances, but I mean, there's certainly a lot of promising factors here with this defense. They've played pretty well in general down the stretch. But as for the Niners, have a talented offense with a high ceiling. Once again, you got George Kittle, who's been a huge, I mean, when he returned for this football team, it was huge. There's no doubt that this team got better with him returning. And Deebo Samuel, of course, an extremely talented player. And Jimmy Garoppolo, of course, as well, who's had a good season. I mean, I wouldn't say he's a top-tier quarterback, but he's a good quarterback that's gotten it done for San Francisco this season. But is this team a potential NFC playoff dark horse? That's a huge question. I mean, the Niners just a couple of seasons ago were in the NFC title game. So we've seen this team get up to that level before. But, I mean, the 49ers this season, I mean, you got so much talent on this team. I feel like this team is very capable of potentially making a Super Bowl run. But it's just a matter of whether or not Jimmy can lead them there and into that position, which, I mean, he's had some good games. But at the same time, I mean, this team has had some inconsistencies and some tough injuries as well that they've had to deal with. So definitely an interesting matchup here. But that being said, let's get to the prediction here for the Cowboys and the 49ers in the wild card round. I'm going to go with the 49ers here to pull the upset. 31-24 is my predicted final score. And I mean, there's going to be, whether we like it or not, there's going to be one big upset at least in the wild card round. And I feel like this is the one. Many people are saying Dallas potentially goes to the Super Bowl, but I think the Niners here, I think this is their time to get a huge win and proceed on to the divisionals. And I feel like Dallas is an excellent football team. As I've said multiple times in this video, they've shown tremendous potential down the stretch. But, I mean, this team is awfully inconsistent at times, and I feel like Dallas heading into this matchup, it's tough for me to be confident in picking the Cowboys, especially considering some of the results that we've seen for this team. And don't get me wrong, this team has played pretty well down the stretch. But then again, I mean, the one tough opponent that they played in their last 5 games was Arizona, and they took a loss in that game. So, I mean, for Dallas, it's a good football team, and I certainly think they're capable of making a deep playoff run. But I feel like San Francisco in the end, I mean, they've played pretty well down the stretch. I mean, if you look at San Fran, just beat the Rams 27-24 in overtime. So 49ers, I like this football team in this matchup, and I expect them to get the win 31-24. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this game, and I appreciate you guys all watching. As always, stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. Catch you on the next one.